Welcome to the meeting room out of office at IMEX Frankfurt. I'm here with Anna from Isla, who's joining me this morning to talk about all things sustainability and Isla and Trace and your temperature check report. Tell me about everything that's going on. You recently had the Made Possible Festival at the Barbican.
Yes, we did. So we had our annual member forum rebranded to our Made Possible Festival at the Barbican, which was actually a really, really amazing day. We've had some truly incredible feedback from, which has been really, really nice for the team because they worked really hard to bring it all together. But it was the launch of our European temperature check report as well. So that's our second industry report that relates to carbon emissions and waste from events, and pulls together all kinds of insights and trends and data points to help people understand what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well, where we can take action, like what are the biggest intervention points, those sorts of things. So yeah, it was a really, really good day.
And it was the biggest one you've done so far, isn't it, the temperature check report, because it was all of Europe. What were some of the main points that came out of it? What did you say, what we're doing well, what we're not doing so well?
Well, I mean, when we released the report 2 years ago in 2023, we had quite a bit of data in Trace, the platform that we were taking it from, but the data quality was really poor because it's user-generated data. It's event professionals measuring events, etc. So we took that data and we were only able to get about 127 events that we felt any confidence in reporting on. And it was really difficult to pull together any real insights from it. I think we only managed about 20 data points in the whole report. And this year, so we've got thousands of events in our platform now. And the data set that we were able to draw from for this European report was nearly 1,000 events. So 7.5 times the number, much better data quality, looking at 22 European countries, not just the UK. And so that's been really, really interesting because we've just got much, much superior information, much, much superior data. So we can actually produce interesting insights. And we took both carbon and waste emission data, but also behavioural data from surveys, and brought that together for the first time as well. So we're not just looking at what's happening and what's the impact and the emissions output, as it were, but also what are people doing, what behaviours are they exhibiting, are they changing, those sorts of things. So I think one of the biggest takeaways, I think, from the report that talks about what we are doing as an industry is a bit of a heavy hitter, that we're acting on optics, not outcomes. So we're doing things that might look good, but broadly speaking are a total waste of time.
like what, for example?
Yeah, so one of the things that we've seen is an increase in people swapping their single-use serveware from plastic to compostable. So we've seen a growth in that. 57% of events when they're using single-use serveware are using compostable materials, which are neither lower in carbon emissions or recyclable or reusable. They're still basically just plates that you throw in the bin. And that's really interesting because more people are using compostable serveware than they are putting on vegetarian menus. Okay. So more people are choosing the optics than the impact, because actually the catering emissions that we've captured, 98.6% of the emissions are coming from the menu. They're coming from the food, not what it's being served on. So what a waste of time really to swap those materials from one type of single use to another type of single use that's higher in carbon, when actually you can have a massive impact just by putting on a vegetarian meal, for example. And the big thing around that is it's just a meal. You're not asking for a lifestyle change. Lots of events can span only one day or even one breakfast. So yeah, that's quite interesting and helps us shape that narrative that we're not necessarily focusing on the things that matter, focusing on what's actually going to move the needle forward. So yeah, I mean, there's heaps of data points, heaps of insights, but I think this optics, not outcomes bit is a definite eye-opener.
No, definitely. And all this data came from Trace as well. And isn't Trace on a free trial at the moment? Is that right? Did I see that?
Thank you for mentioning it. Yeah.
Sorry, shameless plug there.
No, well, at least you're plugging it. Trace is owned and operated by Isla, but it kind of functions slightly separately. And we've got about With nearly 400 businesses globally using Trace, and quite a lot of them on like an enterprise level where they're measuring their whole programs or portfolios, and they've trained their teams and their supply chain are engaged in using it, and they're sort of reporting and looking at year-on-year data, which is great. But we have a lot of interest from people that are starting out, might only have one event, aren't necessarily sure whether they're able to kind of commit budget at this time to a platform. It's a growing need. There's more regulation, there's more legislation. But yeah, we sort of looked at the landscape and thought actually people need to be able to see what they can do, see what measurement looks like, trial it out, see that it's a great platform. All of the free calculators are rubbish and the paid for ones are prohibitive. You don't know what you're committing to. So it was really about giving people access on a trial basis to the platform. They can use it, they can measure an event, they can have that experience themselves, also contribute to our data set, which is brilliant. But then, try before you buy.
And so you've seen a big take-up?
Yeah, we have actually so far, which has been quite exciting. We've got a little Slack integration thing that every time someone signs up for a free account, we get a little ding.
Finally, obviously we're here at IMEX Frankfurt. I was just thinking, when you're wandering around the show, are the things that you see, kind of you think, oh, that from a sustainability point of view, you're thinking, oh, that's good, or that's bad?
It's a good question. I try not to, if I'm honest, because I'm not here to judge. I'm here for my own reasons, as we all are, and I think it's not helpful. But I do see things, it kind of filters in and washes in. You do sort of think, oh, people are still giving away swag, and oh, that's still happening here, and oh, look, we've still got carpet that we know is going to go in the bin of some kind. And so, I am aware of it, and I think, but the work I'm doing every day is focused around what's happening in the industry, how we're measuring it, how we're tracking it, how we're shaping it and changing it, and kind of engaging people and mobilizing people to do things differently. So I do try and look for what progress has been made. It's slow, but we do see less swag. We do see less people looking to give out single-use stuff that's not particularly useful. So I think it's small behavioural changes. But I think one thing I noticed actually yesterday morning when the show opened was I saw a woman who was holding a cup and saucer with her coffee just on the show floor. Can't quite remember where. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Where did you get that from? And she said, oh, Dubai. And it was one of those moments where I was like, how nice is that she can go and get a coffee from a stand. It's in a reusable, lovely ceramic cup. She can take it away with her, pop it down. Someone will collect that and it will be returned to the stand. You think, actually, that's not, Dubai probably haven't made that decision on a sustainability basis. They've made it more on a luxury basis. But it's about helping that positioning that sustainability isn't about less necessarily. So I think it was being able to kind of bring those two things together and say, that's really nice. And I have seen, more people walking around with real glasses and real mugs and etc. than some of the kind of throwaways.
And so that's a big tick then?
Yeah, of course it's a big tick. Yeah, I mean, we should be, one of the other takeaways from the report is that recycling's dead. It was a failed experiment, kind of my takeaway.
Recycling was a failed experiment. That's quite a bold statement.
One of the findings in our report was that 75% of materials, production and graphic materials that are being used to create these events are coming from virgin materials. So brand new, straight from the factory, virgin materials, and 50% of them, more than 50% of them, are only being used one time. So they may be going into recycling, but that's still a one-time use in this window of its life. In terms of them going into recycling, they're clearly not coming back into the system. We're not seeing an increase in materials from recycler. We're still seeing virgin, so it's not working. We're not getting a loop of materials coming in. Maybe they're only used once, but they're being recycled and they're being pushed back into the industry system. It's not happening. And we know that it's not happening across the board. We know that the recycling numbers for plastic globally are like less than 15%. It's not working. At some point, you've got to say, well, it's not working. That's not to say shove it all in landfill, but there becomes the argument for circularity and saying, okay, well, actually, circularity is our new frontier as an industry. Saves money, it's better for the planet, it's better optically, but also on an outcomes basis. But yeah, we can't see these things without the data, and I think that's coming back to the report and why we're producing it and why we're doing it, is that it helps us to understand what our impacts are, where are our interventions, what are the levers, you know, what's the reality of the landscape that we're operating in, and what can we therefore do about it. Yeah. So cups is a small thing, but it was nice to see.
Well, it all comes back to the data, and that's what you do. So carry on doing it, I suppose.
Thank you.
No, fantastic stuff. No, thank you very much for joining me,
Yeah,
Anna,
it's great.
and
Great to be here.
enjoy the rest of the show.
Thank you.